Donald Trump shifting gears as he gears up for the New Hampshire primary.
We're going to be spending money. We're going to be spending a lot of money. We'll be spending money on ads, and we'll be spending money on the ground game.
Trump promising to spend more of his green on the ground game to secure a New Hampshire win, but will it work? Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Bowling. Welcome to Cashin' In. Our Cashin' In crew this week, Jonathan Honig, Michelle Fields, Juan Williams, and Jessica Tarlov. Welcome, everybody. Now, Michelle, will spending more of his green in the Granite State put Trump back on top of the leaderboard?
Well, we know that the other strategy, which was what he was doing, it wasn't working. He can't just draw great crowds and expect that these people are going to go out to vote. He needs to have a ground game. People in New Hampshire and Iowa, they don't want to meet the candidate at a huge event where they have to stand in line for hours in the cold to talk to the candidate. They want to talk to the candidate in their diner, in their local library, their local breakfast shop. That's what he needs to be doing, retail politics. And now, Juan,
it's been said that in New Hampshire, if you've only shaken someone's hand twice, you haven't done it enough.
Well, that's true. But let's remember that Donald Trump got a tremendous number of votes in Iowa. He lost, but he did very well in terms of getting votes. But I do think the big difference here is spending money. So, Eric, the answer to your question is yes, it will make a difference. You know, the question that all the pollsters ask, will the Trumpeteers actually show up at the polls? Some people thought after Iowa that was a problem. I know the Cruz people told me they did not see the Donald's ground game in Iowa. I expect to see it in New Hampshire.
Now, John, New Hampshire has about a third, I believe, a third of the population of Iowa, yet more people vote. Almost double the amount of people go out to vote in New Hampshire than they did in Iowa. So what's the trick? Spend more?
Spending has nothing to do with it, Eric. I mean, money is irrelevant when it comes to winning elections. And Jeb Bush, as Trump always talks about, proved that. I mean, Jeb Bush has spent a tremendous amount of money. If spending money worked, then, you know, Hillary would be trouncing Sanders and Jeb Bush would be running away with it. People don't vote. Voters are not like Pavlov's dogs. They don't respond to, you know, another token being put into their socket to go out and vote. They vote based on morality. They vote based on ideals. And the vetting process of these primaries has steered the attention away from Cruz and towards Trump.
Okay. All right, Jessica, what do you say? So I agree that he needs to get the ground game going. He needs to shake some hands, meet some people, kiss some babies, talk at smaller venues. He can get 10,000 people to a venue, but maybe he needs to get down and into the libraries and into the cafes and say hi.
I think so, absolutely. I think what Donald Trump really has going for him is that he's actually quite likable in small groups. You know, he does have a charming personality. I think that's part of why he gets a lot accomplished also in business. And I think that smaller crowds will definitely benefit him. I think spending more, I don't think it can ever be a mistake as long as you're not perceived as being trying to buy an election, which he's not. He's not using a super PAC. He and Bernie Sanders both aren't doing that. So I think that, yeah, if he's spending more of his own money, he's showing I'm investing in this because I believe in my message and I believe in you, that it will benefit him. I don't know. I think Marco Rubio is the one on the rise here personally, but I don't think he can be hurt by spending more.
Michelle, go ahead. You followed Marco Rubio around Iowa a little bit. What was the difference between Marco Rubio and Donald Trump in Iowa? What did Rubio do right?
Well, you know, Donald Trump had a completely different strategy. Like I said, he thought that his celebrity status and the huge crowd that he was drawing was going to bring in all these people, whereas Rubio was doing, like I said, retail politics. Cruz as well. Cruz was doing almost 9 events a day. He did an entire tour of every county in Iowa, going on a bus, doing the hard work. That is what you need in order to win, and Trump just seemed like he wasn't interested in doing that. He just thought, I'd arrive and have a big event and everyone's going to come out and vote for me.
John?
Well, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, the American voter is not an idiot. They cannot be bought, Eric. It's why all this stuff on the left about needing to rein in campaign contributions and finance reform is for nothing. I mean, the American voters are smart. They vote based on ideas. They vote based on morality. And it doesn't matter how much a candidate spends on an election.
Well, yeah, but John, it kind of does. It kind of does.
They're not going to win.
But John, but what he didn't do, what Donald Trump didn't do, and Michelle points that out, or Jessica, I can't remember which one, but they point out that he was relying on so much advertising. He was getting basically he was on every network, on every channel, and he was relying on that rather than going out and hiring people to help him retail politics, put leaflets indoors and whatnot. Go ahead.
And that's exactly what he chastised Jeb Bush for doing, whatever Jeb put a couple $1,000s per vote, as in why Jeb Bush lost.
But Jonathan,
you just can't buy an election.
I would
argue,
hold on. I would argue that a lot of the people that Trump was hoping would go vote for him are first-time caucus goers. Many of them don't know what to do, where to go. He needed money on the ground and boots on the ground to go and explain to these people. No, not uninformed. It's their first time. Yeah, so they need someone to explain to them where to go. So they didn't have that information.
Organization. It's called organization.
And it's called...
He hasn't needed the organization. He hasn't spent the money on organization. So maybe going forward...
Well, let me just quickly say, you pay money, Jonathan, not necessarily to persuade people, but to get them to the caucus in Iowa. And micro-targeting is what Cruz did. He put a lot of money into specific messaging for specific audiences, even within, let's say, an evangelical conservative crowd. He knew how to reach people, whether it was guns, abortion, gay rights. He knew their trigger issue and got them. And then, of course, don't forget the question about what he did with Carson, the question about the phony mailers. That costs money, buddy.
We'll stay on this a little bit, but Jessica, the other interesting thing is that 64% of the Iowa caucus goers ended up being evangelical. Now, Michelle points out Cruz was out there doing a lot of retail politics, handshaking, but that costs money, too.
It does cost money, and I thought it was really interesting on the evangelical vote that, you know, Donald Trump got Jerry Falwell Jr.'s endorsement, but they still broke for Cruz at the end of the day. And that comes down to the fact, as Michelle said, and I saw great pictures of her actually out with Cruz at some of these events, where he was shaking hands and talking about his own faith, talking about his pastor father. And I think, you know, having a presence and seeming genuine, especially about your faith, is hugely important.
All right, John, I'm going to go back to you because we want to focus now on New Hampshire. That Iowa's in the past. New Hampshire typically doesn't follow what New Hampshire doesn't follow what Iowa does at all. They say, you know, whatever Iowa does, we're going to do something completely different. So, and Donald Trump is leading in all the polls by a nice margin, anywhere between 10 and 20%, depending on the poll. So you say that's not going to last?
Eric, listen, that's what makes it interesting. I mean, this is a horse race, and all the candidates are going to bat here. But I just kind of challenge this basic assertion that spending money changes anything. What wins elections are basic ideas. And I think maybe now, if nothing else, the voters are having to go to that ballot box and saying, what really do I believe in, and what do I want this party and this nation to be about? And it seems, at least at this point, they're veering towards more, I guess what you could say, more traditional conservative.
All right, final thought, Michelle.
You know, I think that Donald Trump's secret weapon is his daughter. I think that she can win over a lot of women. And what Cruz did is he used his father going and having...
They said that when they said you get two for the price of one with Hillary.
But I think his daughter can win over a lot of women. I think that she needs to be on the campaign trail as well.
But you cannot compare Ivanka Trump to Chelsea Clinton. I would say one is completely in the realm. She's advisable. Come on.
Be careful.
Come on.
Be careful.
Listen, Chelsea Clinton's a big girl now. She's not the Clinton's daughter anymore. She's a 35-year-old pundit. She keeps falling. She keeps failing. Yeah, they're pulling her off the trail. You know that as well as I do. One last thought before we go. Jonathan, you're fired. That was a Trump. We're going to have to leave it right there. Don't forget.